At times of turmoil, such as the world is currently facing, people's minds tend to go towards messianic speculations, and some people find portents and signs that the arrival of the Mashiach is imminent. This is a very foolish thing to do. It's a fool's game. See, because the arrival of Mashiach, which will happen once, has been predicted tens, if not hundreds of times. Of course, one time the prediction will be true. But history should teach us that engaging in this kind of prediction is foolish. That is a minor point. A deeper point is that if we think about where this impetus comes from, why is it that people engage in this kind of speculation and looking for external signs about Mashiach's imminent arrival? I believe that the root of this is not having a good concept of the content, of the substance of the Messianic era. See, if there's some goal, and you know that you're going towards that goal, but you have no idea what that goal is, then your only metric to use to figure out, well, where do I stand vis-a-vis the goal, is to look for some sort of external evidence. Some sign. Some omen. But if you know what the goal is, if you understand the content and the substance of the state that you're seeking to reach, then you always can judge, am I getting there? Am I any closer today than I was yesterday? Is humanity closer to there than it was yesterday? And the most important question, how will I bring humanity closer to there than it was yesterday? These are the real questions. These are the important questions that we must be asking ourselves if we care about the 12th principle of faith. Not whether there's a sign that something is going to happen. What is going to happen? And how is it going to happen? And what can we do to bring it, to make it happen in as much as it's valuable? Never externalize it. If you externalize the idea and you think that we're trying to achieve something external from us, then you look for external signs. But if you understand that it's about a state towards which humanity must go, must reach, a state that humanity must reach, then you can always ask, well, are we closer to there? How are we closer to there? How should we be closer to there? So to that end, I want to tell you about what Yemos HaMashiach is, and I want to give you a sense what it looks like and what the content of it is, so that you can know where you stand regarding that, where humanity stands regarding that, and most importantly, where you can see paths towards that. So what I'm going to do is basically explain to you the words of the Rambam. I'm going to give you one angle to explain the words of the Rambam in the end of Mishnah Torah, where he says the Yemos HaMashiach are the days where the world is full of Das Hashem, knowledge of Hashem, if we have to translate it. Imagine, if you would, and it's very important to imagine things, because imagining things, having an image in them, a real image in them, is what allows you to see what might be the paths forward, what might be the ways to realize the image that you have in your mind. Imagine a world where all humans think the same thoughts. Now, I do not mean everyone should think exactly alike. I do mean, imagine that all humans' very sense of what's real, of what's valuable, and what's true, all revolved around the same thing. They all had the same principle, the same nuclear principle that anchored the whole sense of truth, of value, of worth. Now, but what happened then is that humanity would be united. There would be no more strife, no more war. In fact, the human mind would be perfected and reach its full potential due to the cooperation, due to the fact that people can converse with each other and discuss with each other the very same thing, the very same idea that all of them are working towards and all of them care about. Now, is there any one idea around which all of reality can coalesce, around which we can understand every thought, every action, every kir, every sensation. This is the most fundamental question of Judaism. Is the world a multiplicity of things, of disparate things, or does it all revolve around one thing? Now, our essential belief, our core belief, Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. If Hashem is one, then all of his handiwork derives from one thing. That's what Hashem Echad tells us, something very important about reality. What does it tell us about reality? It tells us that, understood correctly, you can see how everything fits in to one idea. So let's say we all have that same idea. What if all of humans, all minds, would know that one idea around which everything else revolves? In other words, they would know that there's one idea, call it, let's say, to give you a sense of what this is, Gadol, Gibor, and Naira, one idea of Hashem and his actions and how he manifests. And it plays out, it manifests through the multiplicity of experience, of history, of thought and sensation, but everything fits into one concept. Maybe it's goodness, maybe it's kindness. I'm not going into what that is. That's what the whole theology is about. That's why you have to study what Hashem Echad is and what Hashem is and how reality derives from him. I'm focusing on the main point here, which is that if all derives from one, then all of reality is one. And then to the extent that you understand how all derives from one, you have Das Hashem, you know how everything comes from Hashem, to that extent you're capable of uniting. You are capable of uniting, same as anyone else. You can have conversations with people about the same thing, because at the root, you're all thinking about the same thing. Imagine that you know that on your friend's mind is the same thing that's on your mind. You're thinking about Das Hashem, you're thinking about what is Hashem up to, how is Hashem being manifest here, and why, and he's thinking about the same thing. And if we all care about the same fundamental value, the same fundamental truth, then everything, and I mean the complete multiplicity of human experience and human endeavors, are all about this one truth. Because if there is one truth that anchors everything, well, then everything is about that. Now, why are the Nevi'im so sure that this is going to be discovered? Why are the Nevi'im so sure that there's going to be an era, a Messianic era, where everyone has this knowledge? The answer is because if there is this truth, if this truth is there, then it's going to be discovered. Half-truths, lies, have a certain lifetime. They last, they work for a certain time until they blow up. An ideology that's incomplete might serve its holders for a certain time, might serve a nation for a certain time, but eventually will fail. And therefore, the only thing that will prevail in the long run is the absolute truth. If there is an absolute truth of Hashem Echad, then it will be discovered, it will be disseminated, and it will eventually prevail. And that's what Yemei Mashiach is all about. So instead of looking for external signs about Mashiach's imminent coming, you should look internally. You should think about this idea. Think about Das Hashem. Think about whether you and the world are any closer to it. That is to say, if you are serious about the most central thing in the Nevi'im, which is Das Hashem, and if you are serious about the 12th principle and don't just play games with it, you really care about it, then this is what you have to care about. Now maybe you're saying to yourself, what is Das Hashem? This is not something I think about. And it's natural then to try to push off the question and tell yourself that, well, there are other important things that I think about, Jewish related. But if you really want to be serious and you really want to care about the truth, about what is the most important thing in terms of history, in terms of the development of history towards the Yemei Mashiach, and where we stand in that regard, then you have to start asking those difficult questions. And those are the correct questions to ask. What is Das Hashem? How do I attain it? What in fact is Hashem Echad? What is He up to? How does everything derive from Him? In what way? Those are the most important questions, the most important practical questions. And I say practical, and I mean people will die until we have all the answers to those questions. There will be wars, and there will be suffering, until we have the answers to those questions. That's what has to be developed to achieve Malach Haaretz Deis Hashem. If you're not serious, if you don't care, that's okay. But don't waste time with frivolities. Don't distract the serious people who care about the essence of what Yom Mashiach is. That's the serious approach to the days of Mashiach. And what would be more welcome would be gauging, thinking about, well, where do we stand related to Das Hashem? Where can we improve that, and how? Those are the important questions. Those are the questions that are important for us to hear, because those are the questions that are relevant for us to move things forward and to attain some sort of goal of perfection, instead of just looking outside of ourselves. When all Das Hashem resides in ourselves, why should we look outside of ourselves for signs that the Das Hashem is about to penetrate? Das Hashem will penetrate to the extent that we develop ourselves for it, to the extent that we open ourselves up towards it. That is a brief thought, brief introduction to the Mashiach that we await. And that is where our minds should turn towards when we see war. War means, look what a lack of Das Hashem we're seeing. And of course, war is opportunity too. It's an opportunity to recognize it's time to bring up a truer ideology, one that works. Certainly there's a connection between war and suffering and the Messianic arrival, undoubtedly. But the connection is about the essence of what Mashiach is about, not the external trappings.